Hi all, my name is Ryan and welcome to my channel What the Pop, where we discuss pop culture in general and Buffy a lot. The usual spoiler alert. I may talk about things in these analyses that relate to future plot points, so if you haven't seen all of Buffy at least once and don't like spoilers, I suggest you don't watch these episodes. Like the channel and come back once you've seen it all. Today we continue our look at Season 2 with Episode 9, What's My Line, Part 1. A plot summary. It's career week at Sunnydale High and the Scoobies are filling out questionnaires to tell them the right career path for them. Buffy is in a funk because she knows her career path. She doesn't believe she has a future, but she comes down on the side of liking shrubs anyway. Drew is playing solitaire while Spike and Dalton try to decipher the Big Book of Magical Cures. Drew tells them they need the amazing Crossomatic. Buffy catches Dalton liberating it from the mausoleum, but gets distracted by another vamp. Buffy crawls in through her bedroom window and catches Angel in a tender moment with Mr. Gordo. Angel is her freaky boyfriend, but the only thing that makes sense in her whole freaky life. Buffy is up for law enforcement and landscaping, the latter because she liked the shrubs box. Willow has no results and gets escorted to a secret meeting with a tech giant, where Oz offers her canapes. Spike calls in the Order of Taraka to kill Buffy, an ancient assassins guild that has really let their standards go. Giles realises the items stolen from the mausoleum and the book stolen in Lie to Me are related. Buffy and Angel have a date at the ice rink. An assassin attacks. Buffy slits his throat with her skate blade. Buffy and Angel kiss. She doesn't even notice his vamp face. Kendra watches from the shadows. Nervous about the Order of Taraka, Buffy goes AWOL, heads to Angel's place. Angel is beating information out of Willie, gets attacked by Kendra. Kendra beats Angel, locks him in a room with lots of exposure to sunlight. In about 6 hours. Xander and Cordy arrive at Buffy's place. Cordy lets in the worm assassin. Kendra attacks Buffy, they fight to a standstill. She's Kendra, the Vampire Slayer. First, I should state that although this is the analysis for What's My Line Part 1, and as such only the plot summary for Part 1 is included, much of what I talk about in the analysis and discussion will refer to both Part 1 and Part 2. But there is so much to discuss in these two episodes that I had to split it into two videos or the whole thing was going to be 45 minutes long. Part 1 is written by Howard Gordon and Marty Noxon, and is Marty Noxon's first writer credit for the show, though she will have many more to come, including the sole writing credit for Part 2. Marty gives the commentary for these episodes on the DVDs, and gives quite a bit of insight into the behind the scenes going on for writers and actors, etc. For example, she wrote in the script that Drusilla would be using tarot cards, but the cards would have specific images on them, not the standard Rider-Waite deck images. And 2 days later, the prop guys came to her with the beautiful cards you see in the episode. One of the more interesting things she says revealed how much is already set before the writers even start to pen the episode. She was talking about the Bug Assassin and how he existed as a character from Joss or the writer's room before she even started to write. Now, while this episode has some of my favourite Buffy moments in it, it is not without its problems. The Order of Taraka, for example, are just a MacGuffin. And they just aren't that scary, and for a league of supposedly elite assassins, they're completely incompetent. The big brute Octaris was only strong, he wasn't a particularly good fighter, and was taken out fairly easily. The worm guy was a joke. I mean, he was going after them in worm mode, but what is it he was actually going to do to them in worm mode? His little squishy worm parts were exactly that, squishy. And the cop one, though appearing in episode 2, was completely useless in her assassination attempt, and not much better in her fighting in the group fight in part 2. There was nothing about any of them that screamed elite assassins. They were the assassins you get when you order assassins off Wish. While mainly in the second episode, the second thing we need to address, and I'll only do it briefly here because I will address this as part of a larger issue at another time, and that's the way Kendra is depicted, both in look and action. In contrasting Kendra to Buffy, they have made her some vague other, Her look is undefined, it has no specific country of origin. She talks about being unable to talk to boys and that her identity should be a secret, but she's walking around in bright purple pants and bare midriff with makeup and hair that makes her look somewhat feline. And an unidentified accent that just suggests she's foreign and exotic, and different, highlighting her otherness, and almost making her a caricature of a host of foreign stereotypes. In fairness to the writers, part of the look is to make us think that it is her represented by the panther on the third tarot card depicting the 3 members of the Order of Taraka. However, there are a number of casually racist moments in these 2 episodes, like Buffy just casually making fun of her accent. It's something that needs to be highlighted as an issue with the show. We praise the show for being great, but we also need to call it out when it's not. Despite these issues, we get a number of great scenes in this episode too. Buffy being glib about her future, or lack thereof, is particularly dry, especially the line, "Well, there you go. I don't have to be the Slayer, I could be dead." Her interactions with Angel in her bedroom is probably the closest we've seen them so far, and probably the most relaxed we've seen them together. David Boreanaz holding Mr. Gordo, and the smile he gives in that scene is cute as. Buffy's fight with Kendra is probably the action highlight of the episode and is far better than any of the encounters with the Order of Taraka in any of the episodes. I love that they were evenly matched, and when you look at their stance and their guard that they hold, it's the same. So it seems fairly obvious that they've both been trained in the same fighting style. As a martial artist, this excites me because it suggests that the current Watchers Council has a standard martial art that they train the potentials and actual Slayer in. All of Spike's scenes with Drusilla are great, their chemistry is just so good. Drew as a character could easily come off as extremely annoying, but Juliet Landau just makes her into such a compelling character with her acting choices. I love when Willow is put into the room with Oz and you can see the realization dawn across his face that Willow is the girl he saw in the Eskimo outfit at the Bronze and on the road in Halloween. He then just offers her a canapé. They've finally met and a fan favourite couple can begin. The scene where Angel roughs up Willie the barman is almost a sneak peek at what Angel the series will be when it hits LA. A rather film noir look at the goings on in Sunnydale, and it makes sense that there would be places where humans and demons interact other than always in humans being killed and eaten by them. Let's face it, if there is money to be made, some humans will have found a way to exploit it. One of the most interesting scenes in this episode for me is when Buffy and Giles go to the graveyard and visit the mausoleum of Julak during the day. I'm having a hard time recalling if we ever visit a graveyard during the day at any other time in Buffy, and as such this scene stands out literally in the harsh light of day. What's so striking about this scene is the contrast between how a graveyard at night is a thing to be feared, but during the day it's nothing, it's just a park. And it is bright. It's California in full sun and it's obtrusively glaring. And in this scene we get a small look at how it must feel to be Buffy in a graveyard at night. We see her just march through that graveyard like she absolutely owns it. This is her turf and she knows it well, and it holds nothing fearful to her because of who she is. Most importantly in this episode, we get our first reference to the Scoobies, when Xander tells Cordelia that if she wants to be part of the Scooby Gang, she has to put up with being inconvenienced every now and then. Of course, the Scoobies is how they'll consistently be referred to in the future. This show loves its parallels and contrasts, so if something exists on the side of good, there is almost certainly a parallel to be drawn on the side of evil. We've already seen this season the writers draw parallels to Slayers with Empata, and girls being sacrificed to maintain male power in Reptile Boy. Here we flip it and look at what is essentially an evil version of the Slayer line. Previously, I've noticed how the Slayer line is basically a supernatural predator, something to be feared by all monsters, something unkillable because if you take down one, another will rise. Kendra says as much to Buffy at the start of What's My Line Part 2. From the demon's perspective, the Watchers Council and the Slayer would seem exactly like the Order of Taraka does to Buffy, Giles and the Scoobies. Giles says about them, "They're a breed apart, Buffy. Unlike vampires, they have no earthly desires but to collect their bounty. They find a target and they eliminate it. You can kill as many of them as you like, it won't make any difference. Where there's one, there will be another, and another. They won't stop coming until the job is done. This description, while less so for Buffy, is a perfect description of Kendra as a vampire slayer. All vampire slayers are a breed apart, imbued with supernatural strength and abilities. Their only goal is to eliminate vampires and other demons. You can kill one, but another will rise, and another after that. Giles says further, they are masters of deceit. Vampires are bound by the night, but these predators can be anywhere, anytime. They can appear as normal as the next person, just another face in the crowd. You might not ever know when one of them is near, not until the moment of your death. Having killed Octaris, the first member of the Order to attack her, both Giles and Angel's reaction incite fear in Buffy, making her paranoid and echoing the themes established by the earlier episodes that you won't know the truth, you won't know who to trust. It should be noted though that Buffy answered this in When She Was Bad. Angel said, "You have to trust someone," and Buffy replied, "I trust me." Buffy forgets that here, and the fear drives her to attack a shocked Oz when he gets too close to her in the school hall. Scared, she heads to her boyfriend's place, someone who can offer some form of comfort and some level of security due to his demonic nature. In Kendra, we are given another what-if Buffy, one who is the perfect slayer, who does everything by the book. Had Buffy not woken up in time to avoid the axe to the face, Kendra's drive to kill vampires would have had Buffy as collateral damage. And given she had seen Buffy with a vampire, she probably wouldn't have cared that much. We already saw her attack the guy in the cargo hold of the plane because he stood between her and her goal. Like Daryl in Some Assembly Required, she is another hand untempered by the heart. We see how Kendra easily gels with Giles and quickly builds a rapport with him. She is studious and listens. She has no social life and is dedicated to her calling and her training. She defers to her watcher, is compliant and manageable. All the things that Buffy is not. As a result, Kendra is exactly that which Buffy fears in herself, that she is nothing more than a monster, a weapon, a tool to be used and ultimately, when broken, replaced. As a parallel to the Slayer line, the Order of Taraka and Kendra, as another what-if Buffy, acts as a warning to Buffy and an expression of her greatest fear, as well as a lesson in who she is. In the Season 1 episode Nightmares, we noted that one of Buffy's fears was to become a monster, or that she feared she already was one, and that's why she was chosen to become a Slayer. Devoid of her humanity that is grounded in the connections with her chosen family, Buffy would essentially just be an assassin of demons and nothing more, essentially a mirror of the Order of Taraka. In Some Assembly Required, the lesson for Buffy was that she needs to ensure that her spirit-minded hand are tempered by the heart, and that warning for Buffy is echoed here. She must maintain those connections, and what she tells Kendra, having learnt the lesson from earlier, is that her emotions are total assets, and that she would have beaten Kendra because Kendra is too by the book. She has no creativity, no originality. Even Spike has previously noticed that Buffy is resourceful and creative. But Kendra also has an important lesson for Buffy in this exchange from part 2.
Well, maybe they won't fire me for dating him.
You always do that.
Do what?
You talk about saying like it's a job. It's not. It's who you are.
Kendra reminds Buffy that being a Slayer is who she is. It's not a job. It's not something she can separate and put aside. This is important for the end of the season, showdown with Angelus. But I'll talk about that more in Becoming. Some of my favourite scenes in this episode are the ones with Buffy and Angel, because it's the first episode that really sells the ongoing Buffy-Angel romance. It really makes you believe that the two of them are into each other and actually dating. The cute interaction between them in Buffy's room, including the adorable side of Angel holding Mr. Gordo, firmly establishes that Angel is important to Buffy, as he is essentially her anchor. As she says, "You're the one freaky thing in my freaky world that still makes sense to me." Buffy is bristling over her future, or more correctly, her lack of one. She realizes that the likelihood she'll have a future is very low. After her stint as a grown-up in the last episode, she's back to being a moody teenager in this one.
Giles, we have work to do, remember? Get with the program.
You're behaving remarkably immaturely.
You know why? I am immature. I'm a teen. I've yet to mature.
This shows us that Buffy's journey to adulthood is very much still a work in progress. She's not done yet, and still has a long way to go. And like many moody teens, she seeks comfort in her boyfriend, who just happens to be a vampire with a soul. Notice how in Lie to Me she wasn't willing to say he was her boyfriend, as she didn't quite trust him. But now, post saving Jenny in the last episode, she's embraced the boyfriend mantle. We haven't before now, but I think it's an interesting discussion to examine why it is Buffy craves this normal life yet dates someone who is anything but normal. You could argue it's because of her experience with Owen in Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. He had a nihilistic streak that would just end up getting him killed in Buffy's world. But Buffy knows that not all boys are like Owen. You had Ford from Lie to Me. He turned out to be dying already, and morally repugnant to her in his choices. So what does Angel then represent to Buffy? Well, despite Buffy wanting normalcy, she's not normal. She is well aware that she will never be normal. At this stage, Buffy is unique. She is this mythical, magical unicorn of a person, the one girl in all the world. Of course, we'll find out that's not entirely true, but she is a superhero, and her life is fraught with danger, and bringing someone into that life is risky. Enter Angel, who is essentially another mystical, magical unicorn of a person, a vampire with a soul. He's strong, he can fight, he's very handsome. Superficially, he seems very much like a heroic match for Buffy. On that topic, we know as viewers that so far Angel hasn't been particularly heroic until last episode. Like in Welcome to the Hellmouth and The Harvest, when there was actual fighting to be done, he was nowhere to be seen. He did take on the Three and stake Darla in Season 1 episode Angel, though they mostly ran from the Three and hid. We learn in the future that Buffy made Angel want to be better. He becomes a hero in order to help her and essentially to be worthy of her. And probably more important for the series, for the audience, for us to think he's worthy of her. So why choose a 240-year-old vampire with a soul when you crave normalcy rather than a high school boy, one of your peers? The reason is quite simple. Buffy needs someone who is a match for her, someone as unique and extraordinary as her, and someone who can hold their own in her life. And that's what she needs in order to find and establish a level of normalcy in the relationship. Her cradle-robbing creature of the night with a soul boyfriend may be as far from normal as you can get, but the feelings that underlie that relationship, the longing, the intimacy, the love, these things are all very normal for a teenage girl on the brink of womanhood to feel and experience. In a season where coupling and sexual maturation is a major theme, these wants and desires are as close to normal as it gets for Buffy being a regular teenage girl. So while a vampire boyfriend may seem like Buffy is chasing something other than the normal, it is the fact that he is also unique that enables Buffy to establish a level of normal that works for her world. So normal in fact that she kisses him in vamp face. She didn't even notice, proving Darla completely wrong. Apart from Buffy herself, we get an indication of how strong those desires are when we look at how our what-if Buffys, Cordy and Kendra, react to him. We've seen Cordy's reactions for a while, and as we'd expect from a what-if Buffy free from her Slayer duty, we can sum up Cordy's reaction in one phrase: hello, salty goodness. The sexual attraction was there immediately. Kendra's initial reaction is far more what we'd expect from a what-if Buffy who is free from being a normal teenage girl. Angel is a vampire, he's a monster, and he should be killed. But what's telling about the strength of Buffy's desire for Angel is that even our cold, emotionless, demon assassination machine version of Buffy readily admits that he is pretty cute. The attraction is still there, despite her initial thoughts. Kendra's stunt double in this episode, April Whedon, who does a great job here because it's almost impossible to tell when it's her and when it's Bianca Lawson, will later appear in the episode Fool for Love as Nikki Wood, the second of the Slayers that Spike killed. Unfortunately, according to April, she was deemed to have a certain maturity about her now, which basically meant they thought she was too old to reprise the role of Nikki Wood in later episodes, and she was replaced by another actor. There are so many good lines in this one, and while I want to give it to Xander using Scooby Gang for the first time, I'm going to give it to this quote.
Who am I? You attacked me. Who the hell are you?
I'm Kendra, the Vampire Slayer.
It left our first two-parter on a cliffhanger with a massive twist, a shock revelation to all of us. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this look into the Buffyverse, please like, subscribe to the channel, and consider supporting through our Patreon. If you've disagreed with anything I said or have anything else I missed, please put it in the comments below, and I'll see you next video.